Welcome. This is Superheroes in Heels, where we fiercely empower women to own their authority, lead with confidence, and rise in business. I'm Kimberly Borgens, your host, and I'm committed to sharing my 35 plus years experience of being an entrepreneur, starting a company from scratch and building it into a multi-million-dollar business. I will share some nuggets that I call my wisdom highlights. All right. I started business in my early 20s with dark hair, and now I have earned every gray hair on my head. What are the superpowers that you possess? When I first started in business, I didn't know if I was going to make it. I went in and I just kept working to give it my best. And just like you may not even know all the superpowers that you actually possess until you go through something. It has taken years for me to discover some of the superpowers that I have. And with the help of my guests, we will share ours along the way so that we can help you define yours as well. So, welcome to Superheroes in Heels. Today's guest, I have a very special guest, at least is a very special guest to me, with us. And my very special guest here on Superheroes in Heels today happens to be my business partner. So, my business partner, my partner in life, my partner in crime, however you want to say that, you know, it's a power couple that, we've been a business empire brick by brick, right? Every mistake, every success has been built together and keeping this partnership solid and with our mission strong. So I wanted to invite Lawrence to join us here today. Look, think about us as kind of the couple that we lead with heart, we we hustle and we dig our heels in, and that's why I'm kind of saying that we embody the experience of superheroes in heels today. So we're going to talk about our command presence, our unwavering grit, and our ability to build and lead, with some fierce grace, as I often say. So I just want to welcome my business partner, my life partner, Lawrence Borgens. Welcome.
Good to be here.
Thank you. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to ask Lawrence some questions. He's going to ask me some questions. We're going to give you a little bit of background, but also give you an idea of some of the superpowers that we have as a power couple, specifically with working with over 33 years in business. Look, we have raised a family together. We have built business together. We create safe communities, and we still have a marriage that many people admire. So today we're going to dig into that. So let's take it back a little bit, Lawrence. For you, what do you think inspired you to go into business? Why did you inspire to go into business to begin with? Because we started this way back when, and it's been a minute. But what inspired you to go into this kind of industry and this business?
Thanks for asking. Before I answer that, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the message that you have and what you're doing with your community and what you're sharing. I think that the people out there, that this is the right message for them and the right time, and it's needed, and that there's a lot of people that you're going to inspire, and you're hitting them with the right message at the right time in the right way, that's going to create some wonderful things in their lives. So just wanted to
Thank
say
you.
that first. So hmm, inspired me to inspired us to go into action together, or into business together. So it's probably a combination of a dream and a necessity. So my background is in military. I was in the Marine Corps. I did executive and celebrity protection down in LA for movie stars, public figures, entertainers, some executives. And I've worked as a private investigator. So I've done a few different things, but I know that for myself, what's important is keeping people safe. And so I know that that's the sort of activity that I'm interested in doing. and that I'm made for. So having a private security company was kind of a logical next step at the time. And had a new marriage and a new family, and there was some necessity in there too. Had to provide for my family and for my wife and that sort of thing. So that's probably what inspired a lot of it in the beginning.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Is we both have some kind of background in creating safe community, in protection kind of thing. As I've talked about before, I double majored as an administration of justice and business management. Went to the police academy, and that's while I was in the police academy is when I met you. And he was working for a private investigator at that time, and then he moved to Los Angeles. He was about 400 miles away, and we maintained a long distance relationship. And, you know, me, deciding I didn't really want to be out on the street as a police officer. And I had a contributing factor to that we can get into later, but I just didn't feel that was the right place for me at the time. And, we had been together about 4 years when we started the business. And it just kind of progressed. It's like, what could we do together that could create an income so that we could have a job or business or something. And neither one of us really, we wanted the freedom to set our own schedule. Okay, now I'm going to laugh about that because we've talked about that over the years as an entrepreneur. Little did we know, but we did want that freedom to be able to have that flexibility. So I think that's another thing that inspired us to go into business together as well. We've been in business for over 3 decades. What do you think is a secret to staying both business partners and life partners? What do you think?
So I don't know how much of a secret it is, but one of the things that I feel like we've done pretty good at is deciding kind of like, when you're in business, there's a lot of different things to do. There's a lot of different lanes. And so we've kind of picked the lanes that are each of our strong points and tended to focus in those areas. And we can both, either one of us can go over into the other person's lane and perform that task, maybe not with as much passion, enthusiasm, or
Skill.
experience, right? Skill or experience, but
Yeah.
but we're capable and
Right.
we're willing to do those things. So I'm going to say that's probably one of the things that has been one of the secrets, is just keeping things so we're paying attention to our department, so to speak, our tasks, and then supporting each other in the other person's task, like being a backup person too.
Yeah. So in business, like I agree. Although I will say along the way, we've had some headbutting. I don't know if anybody else in their marriage has ever had any headbutting or business partners that had any headbutting, but we've both had some headbutting around, defining what our tasks were along the way.
For sure.
Is, who gets in what lane and who gets to stay in that lane, and when should you get out of that lane, and, things like that. Is, it can be a challenge sometimes, kind of just finding that space to begin with.
I agree, because over the years, things have changed. One time, one of us was doing a department or a task, and then in the course of 33 years in business, that shifted, and a different, one of us was now kind of spearheading that task or that department or that um, division, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that shifted over time, and it shifted both as a matter of convenience and as a matter of necessity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that like I did finance, I did money for at the beginning, and then there was a part when I wasn't doing the finance side. He had an assistant in there, and then it came back over to me. Like, we've bounced things around throughout operations, managing team members, even like one of us will manage, and I'll go, ooh, maybe I need to manage that, and you can manage this one, and we'll just, we've bounced around back and forth throughout the years as needed, based on, look, our team changes along the way. And with our team changing along the way, sometimes the person managing that team member needs to change as well. And so over those three decades, staying together is first having that flexibility to decide who's doing what, right? Is like being willing to make those changes.
Yeah.
I think change is hard for a lot of people. I know it is for me. It was a lot harder when I was younger, but change is still the inevitable. That's a constant. It's going to change. We're going to change. And so I think that's one of the secrets for business, is understanding that change happens, and are we fluid enough to make those changes as necessary in the business. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. Change is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'll give an example. In our industry, legislation has changed, and
Absolutely.
the training requirements have changed, and the the state agency that manages or that oversees the security industry has shifted in their regulations, has shifted in their enforcement, has shifted in their interpretation of different laws, rules, and regulations
That's true.
that govern our industry. And so we could sit here and complain about it and go, oh, I wish it was different. Oh, if only it was this way or it was that way. But the longer you spend in complaining about how things are, the less time you're spending on a solution to just dealing with the world as it is and moving forward to be successful.
Yeah.
So that's a great example of places where change has happened and we've had to adapt and deal with
Mm-hmm.
new situations, new circumstances, and get out of our own way, kind of quit resisting the change, and be solution oriented based on how the world is. You have to be very in a lot of ways, at least in this industry, pragmatic and realistic, because the world's a dangerous place, and that's just how the world is. It would be great if the world was different, and there was no need for police and military and private security. That would be a great world. I would go and do something else, and I'd be successful at that too.
Right.
But the world is how it is,
Right.
and so as long as it is how it is, I'm glad that we're here to be able to have a chance to keep people safe and make a difference.
Yeah. And I think that with what you said, we can go back in history. Look, first off, I just want you to know we're older than Google. Okay. when we
We're older than the internet.
exactly, when we first started in business, you've heard me say it before, we didn't have Google. We didn't have the online access of everything that we have now. I remember, the first really big change that happened in our industry happened after 9/11, because 9/11 happened, and our whole industry, the standards for our industry quickly changed. The education, it used to be you could have a temporary guard card. After 9/11, you couldn't have a temporary guard card, so there was a lot more training and education that needed to happen, and we had to adapt to that.
Went from 8 hours to 40 hours.
Yeah, we had to adapt to that, so we opened up a training school, right? So we've had to add different things throughout the years to our business, because of adapting and the changes of the laws, rules, regulations, the environment. Even when COVID hit, the big C, when that came about, like we had to make adjustments and changes and provide gloves and do all these things that we didn't have to do previous years. And it created a whole new change and adaptation to business. And so that is one of the big keys, is making sure that you are willing to adapt, and that you make the necessary changes and don't try to fight the system so much. If you're in the industry and you don't like what's happening in the industry, then get out. But if you're in the industry and you're like, I don't necessarily like that, but I'm willing to comply with it, and I do the things necessary and go above and beyond the compliance aspect of it, then you're going to stay in business. Right? So would you agree to that?
Yeah, and as a business tip, I'd say that um, uh, look, the industry, whatever industry you're in, it is how it is. And your job as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's working in that industry, is simply to do it better than your competition's doing it. To whatever the task is, whatever the thing you have to deal with, you just got to figure out your systems and processes, get your team in place that does it better than your
Or
competition.
faster.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
faster
faster.
than your
Yeah,
competition.
and yeah, and faster is definitely better. I mean, that's a part of better for sure.
Yeah.
So that's key is you're competing against yourself more than anything else. Is how can I do it better than I did it yesterday?
Yeah.
And of course, you would measure against uh, others peers in your industry, or measure against yourself how you did last week, last month, last year.
Yeah. Okay, so that was part one of that question. Part two is the secret to staying life partners. You have anything you want to add on to that?
Just that you, you have to follow your heart. You have to put your heart first, and and figure out what is important, and where the which which battles you're going to fight, right? Kind of a thing. And realize that your business partner isn't somebody that you need to fight against, and your life partner is not somebody you need to fight against. There's a lot bigger problems that you're both on this world to solve, and it's not the problems between you; it's the problems out there.
Yeah, I can agree to that, but also there has to be commitment. You have to decide, what's important for you. I know for me, I've said it to a couple people. I think I said this to you before, but I'm not sure. Is that there was a time in our relationship, and look, our relationship has not been all roses and chocolates. Okay, I'll be the first one to admit, like the first 10 years were the most tumultuous, most challenging, most testing, I think, for both of us. And it took a while for us to find that groove. We had some challenges in business. We had some challenge, as business partners during that time. We had some challenges as, life partners during that time. But when you have commitment behind you, when you make a decision that no matter what, I remember a time when Lawrence came to me and he said to me, like, look, if you want to keep going this way, that's fine, but I'm not going anywhere. So you can either make it easier on yourself or you can make it as hard as you want, but I'm not going anywhere. Right? So it was the commitment behind the partnership that I think is more important to understand. I'm willing to say goodbye to the business if it means that I don't say goodbye to my husband. Right? For me, I'm more committed to having a good marriage than being the CEO of the company. And you know, I'm proud of what I've accomplished along the way. I'm proud of being the CEO of a company, and I'm more proud of being married to the man who's sitting next to me. Okay. And so you have to make sure that you understand that as you're going in. Is I hear a lot of people say, oh, I couldn't possibly work with my spouse. Or, yeah, I used to work with my spouse and we're divorced now. Right? Is because you have to make that decision somewhere along the way that, which one is going to win,
Yeah.
which relationship is going to win. And we'll talk more about that here, around business and things like that. But for me personally, that's my secret, is just knowing what I'm committed to, and knowing it so much in my heart and in my soul that I will walk away from an argument. Not all of them, because I don't walk away from too many arguments. He'll attest, right? But I will walk away from an argument that I know is not good for my marriage. That's bottom line. And it doesn't happen very often, thank goodness. But it has. But I know what I'm committed to, most importantly. I think that's the key there. Okay, so the question is how did we decide? Because we're in business together. We started the business together. We were first, it was a sole proprietorship, partnership, right? We lived in a little 3-bedroom house. We had 3 boys at the time. Well, we had 2 boys at the time when we started the business. And a third one came along the way. But we lived in this 3-bedroom house, and one of the rooms was an office. So we had 3 boys sleeping in one room. And then we had our room and we had a business office. But we started out as partners in a sole proprietorship. So how did we, actually decide who would be CEO, who would be president, when we first created a corporation and had to make that decision? Let me ask you first.
Yeah, I don't remember how we decided.
Okay, I remember.
I just know that it made sense, and it still makes sense.
Yeah. So when we decided to incorporate and become a corporation, we're an S corporation, and when we decided to do that, you had to figure out who was what role.
Right.
Okay, it's
you have
part
to
of
have
the whole
3
dynamics.
officers in a corporation.
Yeah, and so we had to create that dynamic, but and that includes like the division of the we did is we gave each of our children 1 share of the business. Because think about it, our kids had to, they had to, we missed things in their school, we missed parts of their life when we were busy working. There were times when, gosh, I remember one job site where like I didn't see my kids for a week. Right, they stayed at their grandma's because we had this job site that was 24/7. We didn't have enough people to cover it. Like I worked the longest shift, 18 and a half hours. He was working shifts and doing stuff in the office. It was just crazy. And we took a bigger bite than we should have, but we made it through. Right. But at that time we had to figure out who was the deciding factor. Well, guess what? As a woman owned business, sometimes you can get a little better perks. You can get people who are willing to do jobs with you. You can get more, job chances for state and federal job sites and things like that. So when we made the decision, it was the smart choice around finding the best way to build the business in a structure that built the business. And so I became the CEO and he became the president. And, think about that as like, I will say for me, I can't speak for you on this. I can speak for you on a lot of things, but I can't speak for you on this. But for me, it was a challenge just to be a business owner. And then you get this title of CEO that you have to live up to. And it can feel a little overwhelming at times. for me. And, but at first we were sole proprietorship, partnership. And if we wanted to walk away, it was no big deal. We could walk away. But in a corporation, it just seemed like, now that's when, like, you got to hit the pavement. That's when the rubber hits the road, right? It's like now you have to take ownership of that. And for me, that was a lot of responsibility. How about for you, even as president?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of responsibility. And yeah, it did make business sense to divide up the shares with 51% owned by Kimberly, because that gives us, makes us a woman-owned business and gives us an advantage in some proposals and some bids. So that made a lot of sense. As far as the responsibility and the, you're a fiduciary, right? You're now on the hook